I'm Garrett, and I've been a wedding photographer for the last 14 years. I'm in the middle of a video series where I break down my entire post-wedding process. In my last video, I shared my file management setup and my culling process. In this video, I want to talk about how I get ready to edit my photos. So we're going to jump in Lightroom, inside of the catalog we made in the last video for this specific wedding. I use one catalog per wedding. I don't have a conglomerate catalog for the entire year or anything like that. And when we load in, we're in the library module. We have all the 1-star photos already selected, 664 as of last time. I'm gonna go ahead and unselect that filter so that there are no filters currently, and I'm looking at all of the photos in my library. Now, in the last video, I mentioned something about these two photos being very important. Here's why. If you are shooting on multiple bodies, or if you have another photographer whose photos you're going to be using who is shooting with a different camera body, it's super important to be able to get all of those photos in sync with each other so that chronologically the story makes sense. To do that, theoretically, you could synchronize your clock inside your camera by manually setting it and aligning it at the same time. But what I've found to be way easier is to just take a photo of the same clock with every camera body that you're using. Then in Lightroom, here's what you do. Again, we're in the library module. Using the library filter here, we're gonna go to metadata. And I think by default, these might be the categories that they give you. I'm gonna go, instead of date, because all of these photos were taken on the same day, I'm gonna change this one to camera serial number. I'm gonna first select the first serial number that it gives me and open up, wait. Oh. Hi, Lily. Wanna say that again? What was that? As I was saying, I'm gonna open up this first image of the clock, and I'm going to make a note of the time. Make sure that you're referencing the same number for each one, because as you can see here, universal time is set at 17:27:24, but then your device's clock is set at 1:27:23, so about a second off. So it doesn't matter which one you use, just use the same one for each camera body. I'm gonna use the top one. So 17:27:24 is the time there. You can just click escape to get out of that and back into the grid view. Then I'm gonna hit Command A to select all and make sure it still only has the one camera serial selected. Then we're gonna come up here to metadata, edit capture time, and that number that we wrote down, 17:27:24, we're gonna put that in here. 17 is 5:27, and you can type it into 24 p.m. I'm not gonna worry about the milliseconds, and then we're gonna hit change all. Real quick, before we hit change all, actually, you wanna make sure that adjust to a specified date and time is selected. Shift by a set number of hours will just adjust everything. You'll see. This many hours. I honestly couldn't tell you what change to file creation date for each image is. It sounds like maybe it's just resetting the metadata. I don't know. Trust me, just select the top one. All right, what do we say? 5:27:24. Change all. I think I just did AM, didn't I? I forgot to change that. Yep, okay. It's important to catch that. I've done that plenty of times before. And make sure it's PM. And now that those images are done, we're gonna do the same exact thing with the images from the next camera body. And if I had a second shooter or third shooter or however many shooters, I'd continue doing it on and on and on until every image had been time synced. So this one, 17:27:05. Select all again. Make sure that you're selecting all the images and not just the 1-stars, or 2, 3, 4 if you have them left. We're gonna come back into metadata, edit capture time, and this was 17:27:05. So that's 5:27:05 p.m. Change all. Cool. Now, if we go in here and we look at all the images from both camera bodies, we should start to see, yep, you see them perfectly in line with each other chronologically as they were shot. And I didn't have to change any settings in my camera. I didn't have to worry about syncing in the moment. All I had to do was take a photo of my screen before the day started. Perfect. Step 1 is done. I'm gonna deselect and we're gonna get started on my next step. And it's still an organizational step before we even jump into editing. But this has been huge for me, especially with time management. I break everything down into portions of the day. So when I'm editing, instead of just editing, what was it, 664 total photos, instead of just starting at 1 and ending at 664, I found it really effective to break them down into sections of the day. So let's go back to all photos, no filter. I'm gonna start creating collections. To do that, I just come over in the library module, over here on the left where it says collections, hit the plus button, create collection. This first collection is gonna be for whatever I shot first during the day. In this particular instance, it's groom prep. So I'm gonna name this one groom prep. Now, the problem with the way that Lightroom organizes their collections is that it's alphabetical. So while I want my collections to go chronologically, it's gonna rely on whatever I name it. So to combat that, instead of just calling this groom prep, I call this 00 groom prep. I don't need any of these other things selected, so I'm gonna deselect them and I'm gonna hit create. Excellent, we have our first collection made right there. Next thing I shot, bride prep, 01 bride prep. Now, the reason I use zeros and don't just straight go to the 1 digit is because if you have a 10, collection 10 or 11 or 12, Lightroom chooses to recognize an 11 as 2 1s instead of an 11 and puts it in between 1 and 2. So if your collection 11 is reception and your 1 and 2 are groom prep and bride prep, you're gonna have groom prep, reception, bride prep, whatever happens with the rest of the day. So using 2 digits, 01, 02, 03, 04, up to 10 helps offset that so that when you get to 10, it actually rests where 10 should be. Okay, next we had first look. So we're gonna do that one, followed by, what was it, family. Sometimes if it's smaller groups of wedding party and family, I'll do something like family and friends. You can really do whatever you want. You can section parts of the day off, however feels comfortable for you. WP stands for wedding party, followed by some portraits of the bride and groom. Next we have ceremony, cocktail hour, which is also when I do most of my reception details. Cocktail hour details. Then we have what I like to call reception formalities. That encompasses everything from introductions, first dances, parent dances, speeches, possibly cake cutting if it's up front. If it's later in the night, I keep it in a different category, which is reception other. This is dance floor stuff, people hanging out, mingling, cake cutting if it's later in the night. Garter and bouquet toss, as rare as that is, it still happens sometimes. If I've done any kind of night shots, I might make a collection just for the night photos. If I was at an after party, I could make one for that. I didn't do either of these, so I'm actually just gonna delete those, but okay, cool. All right, I've got all my collections that I need set up for now. So what I'm gonna do is go back to all photographs in this catalog, and I'm gonna start putting things where they belong. If you have any filter options open, just make sure that you're filtering all photos and you're not leaving any out. This is a really important part of the process. So let's begin. I'm gonna grab these first 2 images. Don't really matter where they are, just as long as they're still in your collection in case you ever need to refer back for any reason and or change the metadata. So I'm not gonna include those for now. I'm just gonna try to grab everything that was happening during groom prep, which looks to be up until here, and I'm gonna drag it into groom prep. Cool, nice and easy. I can then skip and search for the rest of groom prep, but instead I'm just gonna continue where I left off. Grab this next photo, hold shift until I get to wherever the end of this string of photos is, right about here. Drag those into bride prep. And do the same with the next batch. More groom prep. Those come over here. Bride prep again. Easy peasy. This is all super standard stuff. I do this for every wedding. It's a really good habit to get into because then it's second nature to be able to find things, to be able to organize your work. Years down the road, if you ever need to come back to it and find something, it's incredibly simple. All right. family photos. Where did these end? Right about here. Yes. Family. Wedding party. The wedding party all collapsed in the room. So send my resignation to the bride and the groom. Portraits of the bride and groom. Here's some ceremony. Got cocktail hour and details. Where do those end? Reception formalities, intros, dances, speeches. Okay, yes, and that was a big group photo. So that big dance floor group photo goes in reception other, as do all the rest of them. Okay, we have now sorted all of our photos into collections. Now, instead of editing 6,061 photos, our first task is to get through 389 groom prep photos. And you know what's even better about that? We've already culled the ones that we want to edit, so when we go here and filter by 1 star, it's actually only 44. See how this helps make things a lot more manageable and easier to tackle? Let's see what we have for bride prep. Instead of 661 that I took for bride prep, 51 we're going to be using. First look, 97. And I guarantee there's more selections in here than there need to be. Guys, I was not paying attention at all. I was so focused on making sure I was doing everything right for the video that instead of importing my rated photos from one of my cards, I imported the photos from a backup card that weren't rated. So before I continue, I just need to quickly re-import some photos. You'll see the ratings change. The total number of photos won't change, but the 1-star photos will change. There'll be a lot more 1-star photos. I'm assuming it's gonna be closer to 12 or 1300 total, which is more than norm for me. So please excuse me for a second. I'll be right back. Okay, now that that file situation has been squared away, let's now filter by 1 star and see how many we are editing for each collection. Groom prep has 77. Fine. Bride prep, 115. Totally doable. First look, 118. Family, 70. Wedding party, 84. Portraits, 55. Ceremony, 202. 47 for details. Reception formalities, 253. And reception other, 78. Everything is where it needs to be. We're almost ready. The last thing that I like to do is create a smart collection for myself. I'm going to name this one Running Total. This is more of a mental thing. I create this to keep track of how many 1-star or more photos I have at any current time while editing. So I name it Running Total. It's not inside any kind of collection set. Match all of the following rules. The rating, you can customize these and add as many as you want. I only need 1. The rating, excuse me, getting a phone call. Greater than or equal to 1 star, create. And you'll see we currently have 1,100 1-star or higher photos. If I make one of those 0 stars, 1099. Let's do 3 more. 1096. It updates in real time, so you'll always know how many photos you're delivering. Kind of helps me throttle back if I need to. Excellent. This is ready for me to start editing now. If you're new to this, I recommend starting in the develop module. Sorry. Let me go back. I'm going to start where I would normally start, in groom prep. I don't need that photo there. So I have all of my 1-star photos selected here. Come into develop. And as I said in an earlier video, Lightroom is designed to work from left to right and top to bottom. So in this section of the screen here, we have all of our editing tools that we need. Everything from HSL sliders, hue, saturation, luminance. We have color grading. There's detail stuff down here, transformation, there's vignetting. Sometimes it feels like too many options, but in all honesty, most of them are very useful. And even the ones that I don't use a lot, I have used before. So Everything you need for the most part is here. Now, I'm not gonna make this a video about how to edit photos. This is more about how I edit photos. If you feel like you would like me to make a video like that, I would. But I feel like there's so many other people out there who have made way better videos than I ever could that my time is better spent teaching things that I'm better at. So instead of walking you through how I would manually edit a photo like this, I'm gonna show you how I get it done. And that's with ImagenAI. So I'm just gonna straight up close Lightroom. Yes, I really wanna quit. And I'm gonna open Imagen. If you don't know what ImagenAI is, it's an AI editing software that can learn your editing style and apply it to your raw photos. So you feed it a few thousand of your edited photos in a Lightroom catalog, or multiple Lightroom catalogs in my case, and it learns how you went from raw file to deliverable. It then creates an AI profile for you that only you have access to. It does not use your photos to train other profiles, only your own. And unlike AI culling, in my experience, ImagenAI editing is insanely accurate. The first time I used it, I almost cried tears of joy. I'm not kidding. It was in the middle of 2021 when everybody was slammed with postponements from 2020. I was up to my forehead in editing jobs. And ImagenAI literally saved me days of work. And since then, I have not looked back. It's only gotten better since then. My profile has gotten better and more accurate. And that's because every time you get a project back from Imagen, you can go into Lightroom, further adjust the files, resubmit them to Imagen so that it learns what you did after Imagen did its thing. And then your profile gets fine-tuned even more from there. So it's constantly getting better. They're always adding new features. One cool new feature is the profile shop, which you can buy my profile in, pop culture. So if you want me to edit your photos, basically, you can do that. Or like I said, which I recommend, create your own profile. Have Imagen edit in your style for you. Use my code, it'll give you 1,500 free edits. That's an entire wedding. All right, let me show you how I do this. We open up to the home screen. I'm gonna come over here to projects, create a new project. I'm not culling, I'm gonna go straight to edit. Lightroom Classic Catalog. You can access your photos from a folder. Mine are already in my catalog, and this is the way I've done it from day one when they didn't allow you to access folders. So I'm gonna continue doing it this way for now. Brenna and Dylan, that's my catalog. Now, here's why the ratings are so important the way that I do them, where I only choose 1-star photos. So up here we have all our filters. I'm not gonna worry about anything really but 1 star. So we're only showing the 1-star photos. I'm gonna select my path here. That's the folder that they were in. And you can, down here, you can see how many photos you're selecting, your estimated cost, how much time it's gonna take, and then you can just go ahead and select next. I'm gonna name the project Brenna and Dylan April, choose an AI profile. Mine is called, oops, I forgot I already used this name because I did some sneak peeks for them the other day. So I'll call this Brenna and Dylan April 2. 2024 Canon is my profile, my personal profile. In the profile shop, it's called Pop Culture. This is a wedding, and I like to have Imagen straighten the photos. I'm a stickler for having things be straight or symmetrical, so having AI do it for me saves a couple seconds every 5 photos, and that really adds up. So I have AI straighten it, but that's about all I do for it. Subject mask is really nice. I've used that just to trial it out. It automatically will select your subject and brighten it, but one, it's just not part of my visual style, how I edit my photos. And 2, I do a lot of batch editing, and when you're pasting edits or using the previous function in Lightroom, it automatically tries to copy the masks, and that takes way too long for my liking. So I've chosen not to use any of these masks. The technology is really cool, but for me, efficiency is key. If I really need to go in and delete something or mask something, I can do it myself. So I've got everything selected that I need. I'm gonna go ahead and select edit. And there it goes. So once this is done, we'll hop back on and I'll show you how to access your edited photos. Okay, it's the next morning. After hanging out with my daughter after she got home from school yesterday, I was far too exhausted to continue recording. So here we are, next morning, which is great because honestly, this is kind of how I do operate with Imagen. I'll find a little bit of time to upload my project, walk away for a few hours, maybe a day or two, and then come back to it. So this is actually super realistic for me. But if you don't operate in the same manner and you'd rather start working on your files right away, know that Imagen works incredibly fast, most of the time under 20 minutes to finish an entire wedding. Okay, so now that it's done, what we're gonna do is come over to our projects, Brenna and Dylan April, hit download to review. Make sure that you have the same filters and selection selected as you did when you had submitted the photos. Hit download edits. Imagen will download the metadata because that's really all it's working on. It's working on the metadata from each file, not the actual file itself. Hit open Lightroom catalog, and as soon as the catalog opens, you see all of the photos have been edited. So let's check it out. Let's see how Imagen did. I'm gonna open this one up. Let's look at the before. Oops, I forgot I need to be in the develop module. The before versus the after. Next photo. Before, after. This is exactly how I would edit my photos. Now, the cool thing about ImagenAI is, unlike presets, Imagen edits your photos based on what's in the photo. So you'll see, for instance, let's take a look at the highlights and shadows. -50 on the highlights, plus 29 on the shadows for this image. -46 on the highlights, plus 41 on the shadows for this image. So it knew that I wanted to brighten the shadows far more in this image than I did in this image. And it's correct. So this is a product of, as I said, feeding it for years my work and it learning my tendencies. So at this point, I don't have a lot really to do. I'm gonna go over every single photo, and this is why I go in collections. I'm gonna start with groom prep, sort by just the 1 stars, and in my library view, in this grid view, from here, I'm just gonna kind of take this overview look at this portion of the day, make sure things look as they did while I was shooting them. They do. Maybe a little bit in the red or orange area over here. Oh, you know what? I forgot to sync my camera times after I re-uploaded those files. So let me do that right now, and then I'll come back while these are synced and we'll see them in order better. See, perfect example of what can happen when you don't sync your files. Look, you have him in his suit and then you have him before he was even ready. That's why we sync camera times. Okay, let me do that. Be right back. Okay, there we go. Now everything's in order. Now everything makes sense. Beautiful. So yeah, these photos, I don't think I really need to do anything to them, honestly. If I needed to, let's say, where was I actually? I was saying something might have been a little bit too red, right? Or orange. Let's see. This. We can probably cool this down a little bit. Yep. Cool. Another way to do that would be to use this quick edit feature here in the library, quick develop. If you see, let's say these 3 photos all are a little bit too warm, I can come over here and just nudge them down a little bit. You get the live preview of how they look. That looks a little too cold. I'm gonna nudge them back up warmer, and that looks far better to me. So I can quickly edit a few photos right here before I even open the develop module. Maybe that one needs a little bit more exposure. Cool. Let's see, anything else here really standing out? No. It handles the contrast between shadows and highlights really well, in the same way that I would have if I was editing. Maybe the shadows here are a little blue, so I want to warm up these photos. I selected all 5, hit the temperature up button twice, and that looks a little better. Let's see what the difference looks like. The Imagen import versus my adjustment. Very, very slight, but it does make a difference. So those are the kinds of changes that when I feed it back to Imagen, it will be learning from. It'll say, okay, here's what I did to get from raw file to deliverable. But here's what Garrett did to get from my deliverable to his deliverable. Let me incorporate that into my new process from raw to deliverable. Make sense? That's why it's so awesome. So these photos look great. I'm gonna jump on into bride prep. So these, I can tell, need a little bit more finessing. So I'm gonna come into the develop module. The lights in this hotel room were on, number 1, and were combative with the rest of the light. So we're gonna need to finesse the temperature a little bit. I might need to skew the tint a tiny bit to the green side, more than I normally would. That looks a little bit better for skin tone. Honestly, don't love this photo. It doesn't really enhance the story, and there's a lot of things that people won't like. I know this bridesmaid won't like her stuffing her face with food. This bridesmaid won't like the way that she looks over here in the shadow. I know Colleen over here from Mountain Creek won't love the way that the side of her face looks in the corner of a, what is this? 35 millimeter skewed warped photo. So I'm just gonna hit 0, and that photo is no longer included in my selection. This one's just a little bit hot, so I'm gonna bring down the exposure. Next, same thing here. I'm gonna go back to the library actually to do this. I'm gonna bring down the exposure. Good, this one probably needs the exposure down too. Yeah, looks great. Let's see how the colors are looking here. So you can see there's a light right behind the makeup artist's face or head here. And then right next to it, behind it, is an open door that's letting in a bunch of natural light. So these are the kinds of things that I'm just monitoring. I'm not worrying too much about. I'm just making sure that they don't look alarming, the difference in color temperature with lighting. Cool, that looks fine. Continuing down, maybe these are a little magenta, so I'm gonna tinge them a little bit green. Great. As I'm going through, I'm not seeing anything that needs drastic attention. One thing that I remember while shooting, there was something plugged into this outlet. So perfect time to explain one of the things that I'm doing during this part of the process. Any photo that I see that needs any kind of photoshopping, so whether that's compositing, removing, face swapping, anything of the sort that is a little bit beyond Lightroom's technical strengths, I will mark as red by hitting the number 6 on the keyboard. I'll come back to all the red photos later. I don't bring them into Photoshop immediately. That's a whole other step in itself. But I remembered this one. I'm gonna probably end up removing this and this over here. Same thing for this one, so I'm gonna mark this one red. That one's fine, cool. This one's a little warm, so I'm gonna come back here, bring the temperature down, bring the exposure up a little bit, open up the shadows. And in seeing it opened up a little bit, it kind of looks like the shadows are a little green. So I'm gonna tint it just a touch magenta. That looks a little bit more accurate to me. Cool, backing out. Nice, this stuff looks really good. This could probably be a little bit cooler. Let's see. Yep, cooler works, and maybe greener. Yep, that looks a little bit more natural. So I went one cooler and one greener. I'm gonna apply that to all of these photos that I took in the same way. That's the beauty of being able to edit in the library module like this with the quick develop. You can do bulk edits super quickly. And when the photos are initially edited by Imagen, they're 90% there. So the edits that you do need to do usually can be finished just within this library module here. Colors here look fantastic. The contrast is really nice. Let's see. I was shooting into light here, so this might need a little bit more finessing. I think just maybe a pop of exposure here will fix what I'm seeing. Yep, it was just a little bit muddy. So I brought it up, it's about a half a stop. So we're gonna come back here and let's bump these all up. Let's say 2 nudges on exposure and see how they look. Yep, that looks super consistent, really nice. Love it. Gorgeous stuff. These all have that outlet, so I'm going to mark them with 6 and bring them into Photoshop later. Cool. Onward we go. Looking for the same things in all these photos. Those need to be Photoshopped. Cool. This one, let's see. This one looks a little bit like hazy. So I'm going to just bring the curves down. I'm going to bring the black point down here. Give it a little bit more contrast, and I'm gonna bring the white point, well, not the white point, but I'm just gonna raise the contrast up here rather than up in the bright whites where there's nothing really going on. I'm gonna control some more contrast where there's more information. Cool. That looks a little better to where it started with Imagen, which was here. You can see the difference. Happy with that. Cool. So now I'm looking, I see that there's 2 other photos past that one that were taken in the same light. So I'm going to select this photo that I just edited, hold shift, select the end of that string of photos, hit sync settings. Make sure that the subset down here, I mean, I have my presets, so I have mine set to basic all. I'm going to put mine on all just so that it will be what you're seeing. So check all. I like to take off masking. Just in case I've put any kind of mask on this, it doesn't get transferred to the other photos. There are certain instances when I do want the mask to transfer, and in that case, I'll keep that selected. but I like to, by default, keep masking off. Same with crop and transform. Both of those have to do with cropping and angling and rotating, and I want to have more control over those by the photo. And that's a personal preference. So everything else is fine here. I'm gonna hit synchronize, and you'll see the contrast pop for those two photos. These photos I loved. I'm gonna come back to these and spend a lot more time on these probably, but for now they look great. This is gonna need to be photoshopped with some outlets. This one's gonna need to be photoshopped. Those are probably gonna need more attention too on the edit. For now, everything else looks pretty good. So I've gone through the bride prep section. One of the glaring things that stood out to me was how many of these portraits there are. So I'm gonna bring my thumbnails down a little bit so I can see all of them together and do another cull right now. So there are, right over here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are super similar. I'm gonna select one of them, hold shift, select the last one, and then click this survey view button down here to see all of them together. This is something I can't do on my camera, which is again why I recommend beginners use your computer when you're starting to cull. Now I'm looking at them all side by side. I can tell which ones are the strongest and which ones don't quite need to be included in the cull. This first one right here, she's talking. So already I know I don't need to include this one. 0. That third one in the middle might not seem like a keeper. That is Brenna's personality to a T. I love Brenna. She's so funny. She's so bright and happy and just such a great person to be around. I need to include that one. And you can tell right after she was laughing at herself. So those three are gold. Like those are beautiful portraits of who Brenna is. These two are great too. These two are similar. Her eyes are open in this one versus this one. But again, this is kind of part of a 3-part series here. So I might include all 5 of these. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not gonna include all 5. This one is super similar to this one as well. Her mouth is slightly different. I'm gonna do her a favor and not overwhelm her with more photos than she needs and not include that one. So now we have 4 strong vertical candidates from this moment. That's great. Escape to get out of it. I'm gonna come back in. Look at these 3. These are super similar. Let's bring them up in the survey view. Okay. Probably won't love the way her hand looks in this one, I would assume. Not that it's bad, but it just doesn't feel natural. So I'm not gonna include that one. And I think I like the interaction with her hair better in the left one. It looks like she's got more of a natural grip on her hair than she does in this one. So I'm not gonna include this one. Now we're left with 1. Great. This one's more serious, that stays. These 3 are super serious. Let's open these up. This one, her eyes are to the left, screen left. This one, her eyes are screen right. So this one's staying, of course. So I'm gonna remove that one just from this view by hitting the X on the bottom. I'm not hitting 0 to remove the star. The difference between these two is a very slight curl in her lip. This was right before she started to laugh, and this was before she even thought about laughing.
And now keeping your head where it is, just turn your eyes towards me. Stunning. And you can crack a smile. I know you want to.
I think I know Brenna well enough to say that she would like this one more than this, so I'm gonna hit 0. And yes, this is when she burst out laughing right afterwards. Love those really natural smiles and laughs. I have no problem including all of those portraits. Let's go back through each one, and you'll see that each one is slightly different enough for me to justify including every one of them. Of course, yep, the laugh afterwards, see more of her face. The horizontal shot, serious, looking out, looking inward, cracking the smile, laughing, another just straight up beautiful smile. Done. Okay, I'm gonna jump into this one now. So already I can tell the perspective is a little off. I'm gonna come down here and transform it. I'm gonna slide the vertical up so that it looks like the window is a little bit more square than it is skewed. Great, now I'm gonna crop it. Make sure that things are centered because I am a stickler for symmetry. Make sure there's no transparent marks around. Great. Good starting point. Now I'm going to come over here, hit previous to apply the same crop to the next photo. Good. Now I'm ready to start. So while shooting this photo, I had envisioned it resulting in a far more contrasty image. Imagen decided not to edit it that way, and that's fine because normally I don't edit my photos that way. So again, this is one of the reasons why I go through my photos after Imagen does, just to quality control check them. But I'm gonna manually edit this photo now. So let's just kind of go through it. I'm not gonna really discuss every decision I'm making Like I said, if you're interested in an editing video, that is something that I would definitely consider making. But I just kind of wanted to walk you through my process of editing said photo. And looking good. That's kind of cool. I don't love how bland the spring bear mountain is in the back there, so I might actually just intentionally blow out this window. Yeah, that's not terrible, honestly. Maybe give it a touch more detail. Bring the contrast down. I mean, this is ending up being a barely edited image. Might bring these shadows up just a touch more to balance it out now that the highlights are blown out, and then bring down the overall exposure. Cool. Yeah, that was a little bit more along the lines of what I was envisioning when I was shooting this. And you'll see Imagen's version versus mine is quite different. That's the raw photo versus the edit. So I had a little bit of a different idea than Imagen did. And again, like I said, that's okay. That's why I do these quality control checks. So now I can just quickly and easily select the next photo and hit previous to apply all the previous edits. It's still labeled red because I do need to eventually bring this into Photoshop and remove the outlets and covers and things like that. That will be part of another video. For now, I am actually gonna edit this entire wedding. It shouldn't take too long. I may stop for some breaks. I may even stop until tomorrow. I don't know. I'm gonna go through each section of the day from first look through family, wedding party, all the way down through to the reception other category, fine-tuning the edits, doing a secondary cull, labeling for Photoshop, and making sure that the story is being told the way that I want it to be told. So once that's all finished, I'll check back in with you. If there's anything that I come across while I'm editing that I feel is notable to make part of this video, I will definitely include it after this clip. But if not, I'm going to conclude here and I'll pick up with the next step, Photoshopping and black and white conversion, in the next video. So if you're interested in following along, please hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll try to get to them as fast as I can. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.